Hello and welcome to a live That Christian panel on Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. I'm Keri, one of your hosts, and I'm here with my esteemed panelist, Mr. Brahmabull from the bullpen. How are you, Brahma?
Hey, doing good. Glad to be here again. This should be an interesting, spicy one.
This should not be controversial at all. Oh, we'll see how it's going to go. So we're here with Brahmabull. We're here with Michelle from Force of Light Entertainment. The beautiful Michelle. How are you, Michelle?
I'm doing good. Good to be back with a spicy topic.
A spicy topic. We've been doing a couple of these lately. I mean, we did some really sort of like, let's do positive movie reviews. And then it's like, and now controversy. What do you
It's fun.
It is. It is. I hope people get something out of it. And as always, you are welcome in the chat. If you are a believer or non-believer, if you have questions, if you're an atheist, everyone's welcome in the chat. There's no stupid questions. We just ask that you try and be civil when you disagree, which usually people are. And then tonight we have a special guest. Michelle, do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes. So many of you all out there, you have met my sister Natalie, especially those of you who come watch Force of Light Entertainment. But now we have our older brother Michael is with us. So I guess Reverend Michael Smith as well as does other stuff. But good to have you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you. Great to be here, Keri. I appreciate you having me. I know my sister a few years ago shared some of your show. I think this was back in a time when you were dealing with a lot of the kind of the woke revolution, and you were kind of sharing your journey coming from that. And so I got to expose to you a little bit then, and I really enjoyed it. So I appreciate you having me on your show tonight.
Oh, well, we're so glad to have you. I think it's awesome. We've got family on tonight. And by the way, you and Michelle and me, that makes 3 Smiths. Brahma, I know you're anonymous, but we're just going to let you know it's Smith. I'm kidding.
That'd be crazy.
That'd be crazy. Well, so tonight we kind of teased it a little bit. We are talking about Andrew Tate. He continues to be in the news. And this is one of those shows where sometimes it's sort of like, well, what's a Christian perspective on what's going on in culture or politics or entertainment or what have you, the thing that everyone's talking about. And this is one that we all had opinions on. And so someone suggested it and I'm like, yeah, let's talk about it. I clearly have a lot of opinions on it. I've been talking about it all week. Andrew Tate, if you don't know, he is a renowned pornographer and pimp. This is what he self-described, pimp and pornographer, who built an empire, a fortune, pimping out women on platforms like OnlyFans, and then also selling online courses to men, teaching them how to get what he called his PhD program, which stands for Pimping Hose Degree. And he built a very large presence, also selling courses to men on how to become more masculine and a pimp like him. And then he, a lot of people at some point during the COVID years, I think started to think of him as somehow reality based, because he said some things that I think most of us probably would agree are true about masculinity. And some stuff about the COVID policy and things like that. Anyway, long story short, this guy, he's been evading criminal charges in the UK. He went to Romania. Now he's facing criminal prosecution there. There's a upcoming trial where he and his brother are facing charges of sex trafficking and sexual rape of a minor. And so he just got permission in Romania. The prosecutor lifted the travel ban while he's awaiting trial. And so he and his brother just skipped on over to Florida, and he's in the news again because a lot of podcasters with big sway are having him on their program. People who claim to be conservative, people who say they're Christian, have been praising him, sort of promoting him, talking about how they're fanboying or fangirling at him. And so we wanted to just, the 4 of us, come together and talk about like what is our take on this guy? What is the philosophy of Andrew Tate and how does it compare to the gospel? That's the topic. I tried to do it as fast as I could, but that's kind of long. There we go. That's what we're talking about. What do you guys
Well,
think?
and I'll add one piece of history to that just
Okay.
to kind of complete the story. He was a very famous kickboxer
Mhm.
before any of this happened. That's where his initial following came from.
Yeah. He was a very
And
good
that
fighter, very legitimate fighter, world champion kickboxer.
Wow.
Mhm.
and that's where some people latched onto him for the masculinity thing, and then he took it to the MGTOW type, situation.
So was he a kickboxer before he got into all of this, pimping hose degree stuff?
I believe so.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He has said that he did not make most of his money in the sport of kickboxing, that he made most of his money in the business ventures that he's been doing the last several years, kind of post-career.
I've seen him bragging on camera about how much money he's made from
Mhm.
men. I've seen him bragging on camera about how oftentimes when all these different men were chatting, paying to talk with, to type with the OnlyFans girls that he was pimping, it was him and his brother and other men in the background talking sexy talk to these men. He also has bragged about on camera laughed about how some men have given so much money, they gave their life savings or they sold their house to, give money to continue talking to these women. He's bragged about the strategies they would have where the woman would tease like an in-person meetup with a guy to get more money, then provoke a fight, and how they had this whole script they would do every time. So the meetup never happens, but the guy keeps giving money and you keep getting him, keeping him on the line. So these are ways he's very proud of having made money this way, and built his name this way. So let's just play. Why don't we do this? Let's start with
play something.
the most recent. He's been on Candace Owens. He's been on Benny Johnson.
Benny Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just on PBD. What's this guy's name?
Patrick Bet David,
Patrick Bet David.
Patrick Bet David. Here we go.
who professes to be, by his words, he says, a evangelical Christian.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Let's watch.
But if you're a man who's stuck with a woman and you don't even get along with each other and it's a show marriage and you have to be together and you argue all the time and you're sexually repressed and you're being promised in secret that you can go to an island and finally be pleasured and satisfied, no one's ever going to find out. That's how you end up on the island. So this whole monogamy garbage that's being pushed by the West, especially amongst our elites, is the reason we have the biggest problem with pedophilia. And they don't have this problem in South America because they all have girlfriends. They don't have this problem in Russia because they all have girlfriends. The Thai elites don't have this problem. They all have girlfriends. But here in the West, we're saying, nope, you just stick with your wife, only her, be happy with her. What happens if you don't get along? But if you're a man who's stuck with a...
So just so people can follow what he's saying that monogamous marriage, monogamy, is the reason why there are pedophiles who go to islands and abuse children.
Yeah. Yeah. That's his argument. That's his thesis. And it's, I haven't seen the whole interview, but it's my understanding that Patrick Bet David didn't push back at all.
Yeah, no, not at all.
He just, there wasn't any real challenge of any of those ideas or values. So yeah, that's, I think a lot of people might be like myself, that we knew of Andrew Tate as, a lot of men, we knew of Andrew Tate as the kickboxer and kind of as a social media something, but we didn't really pay attention to him. And so I know for a long time, I was not aware of like how low this guy had gone in this money-making scheme with young girls, and almost like slavery is what he describes. It is slavery is what he describes. And so I had no idea about that part of him. So I think that it's unfortunate that some of these shows are letting him get this out there without really any accountability to some of these things he's saying.
Yeah.
I want to really illustrate kind of what he's sort of advising is sort of the best way to live life, or the way to be a strong man, or to be masculine, the best way to live and be in the world. And I really want to sort of explain what that is in a nutshell versus what Christianity says, what the Bible says, what Jesus
Okay.
says about those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And so here he's talking about, well, he's opposed to monogamy.
Yeah, he's spitting in the face of God right there. He's telling you that the way God ordained it, that you shall be joined to one wife, that the two will become one flesh, that the way God ordained it is actually not the good way. And the good way is to marry, or not even marry, he doesn't marry, have
Right.
lots of relationships, which actually in the Bible is always very problematic. Look at David, who had multiple wives, and look at what happens with his children. What they rise up and kill each other, rape others. It was a disaster. So he's telling society to do the opposite of what God has told everyone to do. And he claims that by doing the opposite of what God has told everyone to do, that is how you avoid going down a further sinful hole of pedophilia. And I love that he mentioned Africa. Well, it's my understanding a large portion of Africa is now Muslim. And well, Muslims openly marry like 12 and 13-year-olds. So I would consider that pedophilia.
I'm pretty sure Tate converted to Islam a few years ago as well. So
go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say that, he's definitely doing that, Michelle, but he's doing something even worse. I mean, he's not even like saying, kind of the traditional variant of, well, just sleep with a lot of women, have your way, have fun, nothing's, that's what it's about. He's not even saying that. He's saying that, but he's also saying that you learn to dominate, manipulate, control, and destroy women. That's also what he's teaching. So it's really, this guy is bad news.
Yeah. He's just to illustrate that point, Michael, I want to put up just a few more things so people can see, because a lot of times when I've talked about this subject, I actually have people in the comments who don't seem to know. They haven't read the charges. They haven't watched the video clips. They don't realize he's on camera, and I'm not going to play it during this Christian panel, but I've done a whole video about it where I have played some of these clips with video clips of him physically assaulting a 15-year-old girl who he is sex trafficking, and it's on camera. He's admitting to it. He's verified her age. Her age was also verified by the site she was on and by the government of her home country. These things are all in the charges. And so people haven't seen a lot of this stuff before. And so I'm not going to show any of those explicit clips, but I want to show this just a little bit more. This is not from the PBD thing, but this is the kind of stuff he's been posting about recently during all this attention and during the question of whether or not he was going to be able to leave Romania before the trial. He says, all of you men are the type of loser who's afraid to birth children from multiple women because your wife will, quote, get mad, LOL. And you wonder why your sons respect me over you.
Yeah.
The young men of the world want a hero to look up to. And you can't be a hero if you're scared of your wife. You can't be a hero sharing the chores. You can't be a hero reading books in bed with a 6. You can't be a hero without a fight. You can't be a hero without lots of money, without being big and strong. You can't be a hero without winning against insurmountable odds, against the mainstream media, against the Matrix, against jail, in the ring. The young boys of the world want a hero. If your life was heroic, they would be interested in you. But you can sit on your podcast and pontificate about traditional masculine role. You're not a hero. Nobody gives a shit about you. I am the one who is suffering, which is why my life is so fantastic, because I talk about how great it is to have a hard life. I love getting arrested and thrown in jail, having my house raided and guns waved at me. I love it. It's what I'm made for. All of you watch James Bond movies. I am that guy. You see, you watch James Bond, he's under the caution, and it's difficult, and he has all this money and all these beautiful women. The bad guys are trying to lock him up, and you watch it, and you sit there with your ugly wife, and then you go home with your ugly wife, and you read books in bed, and then you mow the lawn. I live that. Think I give a fuck about this court case? Win or lose, it's a fucking story. I'm going to win in the end because it's a story. If I go to jail or not, your sons are watching me. You can hate me, but your children love me. They don't love you. They love me.
I'll just stop it there. There's more of this.
Wow.
There's more of this.
Wow.
I find it interesting that the reason that I had brought up the kickboxing thing and being a world champion is to be a world champion in anything, especially in something that physical, you have to have a lot of self-control. And then it seems like after he was done with that, he just went on, nope, I live by my impulses and have no ability to control myself at all. And that's a good thing. That's what he preaches now.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's been able to maintain some level of discipline through the years, but it seems like maybe, I mean, he just seems a little bit unstable. He seems like he's definitely got some complexes going on there. So very unhealthy person. And I know that he had gotten into, my kid's junior high last year. That's when I really started to become aware of him. Because I heard my son's friends referencing Top G, which is, I think that was one of his programs.
Yeah, he's the top. He's the top G.
Top G. And so when I found out Top G was associated with Andrew Tate, I looked into it, and that's kind of what led me down the rabbit hole of really finding out what this guy's about. And so, I told my son immediately, I said, this guy is terrible. He's a joke. I said, you cannot listen to this guy. He's telling you all the wrong things. And, at his age, at that point, that was enough for him. And he put it, he's kind of dismissed it. But who knows how many untold millions of young kids are being influenced by this ideology.
It's incredible. And there's this weird, like listening to him talk. He reminds me of, well, first of all, Satan, the great deceiver. I mean,
yeah.
Everything he's saying is the inverse of truth. He's selling the inverse of truth, but he can only do it by peppering tiny, like a truthful sprinkling of a few true things on top of this bed of lies. So that's what it makes me think of. But it also makes me think of cult leaders and famous con artists and everyone from someone like Charles Manson, the Manson family, why did people follow me? Why do you think they did what I got people to murder people? It's like that kind of like, he's sort of the proof is in the pudding. The fact that I am getting people to listen to me is therefore proof that I am all of these positive things. Well, that's not true. There have been people throughout history, as we know, from world leaders to cult leaders who have gotten people to follow them. That's not evidence that what they're teaching is true.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and
charismatic doesn't equal right or moral or just.
Right.
Well, and something else I've noticed, and I could go back and find it because I actually tweeted it out. It was something he was saying but he's basically saying again in that one you just showed, but he said it on Pat Bet-David's show. He basically, all this like guys follow me, but if you actually listen to what he says, he actually tears down the meaning of what it means to be a man to literally to where men's worth is only if they make tons of money. If you actually catch what he says, only if you make tons of money and sleep
and have tons of women.
Yeah. Yes, and have
primal urges and greed.
Yes, if you only do that, then like that's your only worth as a man. If you do
money,
yes, basically money is what he strips it down. Yes, to be the top G, you got to have all the women, but basically he strips down a male's worth to exclusively provision.
Yeah, I mean, part of his program as well. I mean, just getting, he is to teach guys how to manipulate a girl into falling in love with them.
Yes, I've seen him talk about this.
So that they can take advantage of them. And if it works well enough, even put that woman into their service to make them money through a digital, venture.
Which is the literal definition, by the way, of the lover boy method, which is illegal.
Which is grooming. He calls it the lover boy method. They say, his brother Tristan, who's also facing these charges, is on camera as well, talking about how, if you're a man and you pay for these programs that they teach you, they're going to teach you how to get women to fall in love with you so you can pimp them out to make money off of them.
Right.
And as you mentioned, I'm so glad you boiled it down to what he's saying. He's saying a man's primary worth is in how much money he has. And then if he has a lot of money, he's going to have a lot of women, is what he's saying. But he says it's primarily in how much money he has. And how do you get money? According to him, you get money by exploiting, like conning men out of their life saving, men who actually have real jobs, conning those men out of their money and doing so. What are you selling? You're selling women. You're selling women's sex, access to sex with women.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's just mind blowing to me that this is what he says masculinity is.
Well, and I take that too, and I can look it up here when you guys are talking if you want me to. On Pat Bet David, he was basically talking about how I think maybe they hit on Elon. I don't know if they hit on Elon or not, but basically he was saying he doesn't have to spend time with his kids because his kids recognize that, he's the top G, like he makes all the money. And the bottom, that's another lie. And again, that's reducing down a father's worth to strictly provision, where a little kid, they like, well, anyone, even beyond a little kid, yes, gifts are nice. But like, I know I said this recently, I saw it and always stood with me. How does a kid spell love? Time. And he's stripping all of his many children. I mean, actually him not spending time with his children is probably for the best, if let's just be honest in this situation.
Yeah.
But he's selling men. If you're rich enough, you don't even need to spend time with your kids. Like all across the board, this man sells men lies.
Well, I mean, and he's convinced that, everything he's doing is just and righteous and that he's teaching the right way. And that, if you think otherwise, if you hold to any kind of traditional value, you're nothing but a punk, you're nothing but, you're not worth nothing. You're not a real man. And so, and it's very, that alpha kind of, vibe that he has is very appealing. And he obviously intimidated all of the hosts on Patrick Bet David to say nothing the entire time while he spewed absurd and ridiculous things. They clearly were afraid. And I get it. He's a world champion kickboxer and he's a very alpha, in your face, aggressive kind of personality. But so far, none of these podcasters have really stood up to him that I've seen, or even challenged him a little bit.
Honestly, Michael, I think it's because it tells me more about, so it's you either have bad judgment or you have bad character yourself, in my opinion, when you are praising and promoting someone like Tate. It's not like any of these journalists have brought him on to say, we're going to get down to the nitty gritty and figure out like what's going on with these charges. And we're going to look at the evidence. And no, they're not doing that. Mm-hmm. They're promoting him. They're helping a narcissist, in my opinion, to spin a narrative about so that he can avoid consequences for being found out.
It's not just the podcasters though. When he was on Benny's show, Alina Habba came onto the show just to sing his praises for 20 minutes and fangirled out. Trump's lawyer was on there.
Yes. It's pretty incredible. And I think there could be something also nefarious going on, to your point, Brahma, where some of these people are, whether they're influential podcasters or they are, there's a couple of them who work in the new Trump administration. They keep trying to tie the Tate's name with Trump. They keep making comparisons to Trump, and right. Tate himself keeps doing that. And I'm like, wait a minute, why are you trying to tie Trump to this dead weight?
It's kind of like before he wasn't. It's kind of like what Nick Fuentes was doing before Nick Fuentes wasn't doing that. He kept trying to tie himself to the right or to the conservatives. Right up until Trump basically threw him to the curb. Mm-hmm. And then he was on that campaign to have all of his people not vote for Trump. So there are a lot of bad actors on what is truly what would be called the far right.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think you're exactly right, Keri. Actually, I think it's that simple that these individuals they're in on it for whatever reason. They've sold out to it, whatever that is, and they're just having him on and promoting him and trying to make him a little bit more mainstream. It seems like.
Well,
Yes.
it's kind of like Benny said from the Pat Bet David podcast. He said, "Love him, hate him, he moves the needle," as he took a picture with Andrew Tate. So
Yeah.
like they know. Think of I heard Clay Travis say he makes $7,000 a month due to interaction on Twitter. Twitter alone, $7,000 a month off interactions.
Mhm.
So even my point is Pat Bet David, all of them posting him on Twitter. Think of how much money they're making from
Yeah.
all of us being like, why are you having him on your show?
Yeah.
He does move the needle as far as money for these people in a short. I hope it's just for a short term, because like I don't really watch Pat Bet David very often, but I personally told YouTube, do not recommend channel, because that's just the point I'm at with these people who want to be, I'm just going to say it, they're hypocrites. Do not tell me you are a male who has read the Bible and is a born again Christian, and you can sit there while this man promotes things like infidelity and not push back at all. I don't respect you. You are a hypocrite.
Yeah. And chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Pat Bet David, didn't he build all of this up on basically a pyramid scheme as well?
That's
so
what I've
it's
been
a grifter talking with a grifter.
Well,
even though we may not like using that word as often as we do, that's exactly what they're doing in this case.
It just means it's just a new word for con artist.
Yeah.
It's like
it is.
Somebody who says some stuff they don't believe or they don't care about just for money or fame or clicks or, power. And I think, yes, I don't know enough about PBD. I just know that I've had so many gut checks on him, and every time I've seen a clip of his, my gut reads the wrong way. And and then he was also, think about this, rehabilitating the image of Chris Cuomo, which I was like, wait, why is he doing that? And now it's Tate. And I'm like, why every time you come up in my feed, you're trying to sell a really bad person to me? I don't think a person could have that much bad judgment. I think you just are maybe of not a great character yourself. That's my opinion. I don't know.
And little Chad saying he wasn't a grifter, he was an actual con man. So
wow, a scam artist.
Yep.
Patrick Bet David set up that debate between Cuomo and Dave Smith, the comedian libertarian guy, and Dave Smith definitely got the best of him in that debate. Cuomo was like just nailed dead to rights with his own words. And
I remember some of that.
Yeah, did you see some of that?
Yeah. Nope. Let me show you guys this, because Michelle just sent me a clip, and I've got, I think, 2 different clips here of Tate talking about fatherhood. So this is something he's been posting about this month quite a bit. This is from February 16th. He says, if all your children come from one woman, you are not a conqueror.
Yeah.
So basically he's advocating that you go out and create a lot of single mothers without a present father in the home. And then this is one of the clips here that Michelle sent from the PBD podcast.
Same with Elon. Let's apply it to Elon. Anyone who says Elon can't be a good father because he has so many kids is an idiot. You think Elon, with his influence and his brain and his capabilities and his achievements, can't see his children for a few hours and make a massive impact on them? You think his children aren't going to grow up and know that his dad is the first person to colonize Mars and be proud of his last name? Of course they will. Of course. If you want to be a couch potato and sit at home and have no stories to tell and no capabilities and think that makes you a better father, well, then you're just an idiot. And you're not even raising your kids, because YouTube's raising your kids or the school's raising your kids. You're sitting there jerking off the porn and watching fucking sports with Dave fucking, what's his name?
Portnoy.
Dumbass. Dave Dumbass.
Let me just pause it for a second. He does this quite a bit. He makes fun of men for paying for and consuming porn. And one of his tweets, he said, one of his famous tweets, he said, I make porn, you consume porn, I am your God.
Yeah. Boy.
That's what he thinks about the men who are giving him money, who've built his fortune.
Yeah.
And that one was only a few months ago, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's very current.
They're just laughing it up.
Yep, just laughing. Like he's just eating it up. Oh, we made fun of Portnoy or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Portnoy. Dumbass. Dave, dumbass. You're jerking off over porn. So these people aren't better fathers than me. That's an attack vector they're going to use against me. Of course. I'm not saying I don't see my children. I'm saying they don't matter. I'm saying that I believe with my financial capability and with my achievements, I can have a whole bunch of children. I can put them all on private jets in and out and see all 10 in a day if I need to. And I believe I have a large enough impact on them. My children listen to me and they respect me and their mothers are happy. That's my view.
You're saying quality time is way more important than quantity of time.
I'm saying your capability of a man as a man.
Oh, can we
in
pause
all-
that?
You're-
Can we pause that? He said I can put my kids on a plane and have them there if I need to. Need to. Not want to, need to. And that guy just, what's his name, Michael? I forget that dude's name. The other one that just said that. Not Benny, the other one. Adam. It's Adam.
Yep.
And then Adam tries to rephrase that gently. So you're saying quality of time is more important than quantity of time? No, that's not what he said at all, you idiot.
Yeah.
Like he basically just said you don't need to be in your kid's life if you have money and your name means something.
Yes. Yes. It's the exact it's like I feel like this is a great illustration for watching a con artist, a manipulator, a cult leader type of person just spin in real time. Like, what is he doing when you get down to the basics here? It's what you're saying, Michelle. He's making justifications for not being a present father, for creating lots of single mother homes where there's no father in the home. There's no masculine influence. And then he's making excuses for that and saying, it's okay because I have a lot of money and I have private jets.
How much do you want to bet this guy cuts those women off financially if they get involved with someone who actually loves them?
Yeah.
May even beat them. Who knows what this guy does?
I'm going to finish this clip, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Capability as a man reduces the amount of time you need to spend there. Look at a CEO. A CEO can spend an hour a week in a business. He's the CEO. It's different than if you're a normal guy. You got to be there all the time. I believe that potency as an individual allows you to speed run things. You can speed run fatherhood. You can speed run being a boss. These CEOs who have 20 companies, they just turn up once a month because he's the boss. It matters when he's there. And it's the same with me being a father.
Okay. So he's saying this about Elon. You know, Elon, I guess he's trying to compare himself and associate himself with Elon Musk now. And Elon Musk is on the record talking about his broken heart. And part of the reason that he says he started paying attention and got involved in this culture war of woke is because his oldest son has fallen victim to gender ideology and is now saying that he's a girl and has transitioned. And he's basically says he's lost his son. Okay, so you've lost your son, but Tate is telling us that if you have enough money and power that you can be a great father, you don't have to be there. You can show up for an hour, I don't know, like an hour a month, if that, and you've got it. It's golden. Your kids are going to be great. Like they're good. They don't need you in the home. You can be wherever. I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the problem is most people don't think it through like that. You know, Elon Musk is just kind of this big character right now, and everybody's impressed with Elon and everything he's doing. So you associate yourself with Elon and you're golden, you know, you're fine. And I think that's what he's trying to do probably.
Well, I mean, I think he's trying to associate himself with Elon because Tate has a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Elon has a lot of money. Elon is now on his 14th child was just born.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Elon basically does live that exact same thought process with impregnating women. I don't know what Elon does as far as hanging out with his kids. I mean, he's brought a couple of the kids to the White House. We've seen them. So he is spending some time with them, but I don't know how much time he spends with them. He may be spending more time with his kids now because of the situation with his first son. Because he may not have been spending time, and that may have been how that child was entrapped in the trans ideology.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a good point. They essentially live the same lifestyle, Elon and Tate, but they certainly present it very differently. Elon certainly doesn't come across as anything like Andrew Tate.
Right.
No, no. I think that's also why he's trying to associate himself with Elon and say, look, I'm like him, is because there is a lot of goodwill. I have a lot of goodwill towards Elon. Elon's not out there on camera beating up 15-year-old girls who he's sex trafficking, and he's not selling courses to men on how to become a pimp,
Right.
and conning, scamming men out of their life savings. And so I think they're very different when it comes.
Very different. Yes.
And so,
Yeah, I'm not saying they're the same. I'm
no,
saying,
I know you're not.
Yeah.
But he's trying to say, look, because we
Right.
both have kids, lots of kids out of wedlock with lots of different women, then we're the
Mhm.
same. And it's like, there's some really important differences as far as I know.
Yeah.
Especially in the way that they made their money.
Yes, also that way. Yes, that's a very good tip.
Well, something else that would be different between him and Elon, and I mean, this could be, at least Elon in his own way is trying to do something good for humanity. Like,
Yeah.
whether you disagree with
Right.
it or not, that's his goal. I was just thinking here, another thing that Tate sells men and is a lie. What fulfillment does Tate have in his life? Like, genuinely, what good does he do? Because we believe, that becomes divinely, like the way we were made. There's something innate in humans. We want to do good. We want our lives to count, like not in just, we made a lot, but there's something in us innately, and I believe would go back to, loving God and loving neighbor. There's something in us that I feel until you're serving someone else in some way, you're going to not be content in your life. And basically, he's telling you to live a very selfish life that offers no actual fulfillment of purpose and meaning.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, it ultimately goes back to, what was it? Aleister Crowley that, a lot of early rock and roll bands grabbed onto, and his one commandment was do what thou wilt. And that's really just a repackaged way of like a very extreme version of that is what he's selling now as, the right way to live.
Yes.
And we see other people doing the exact same types of things as this, just with a completely different packaging. Because you brought up, grooming a couple times, Keri. I don't see it a whole lot different than, say, Jeffrey Marsh.
Who's
Doing this.
Yes.
It's the non-binary guy gal thing that is constantly on TikTok, wearing the green eyeshadow, that is constantly telling kids, I love you, your parents don't. You need to separate from your parents. And he created a Patreon that he's talking, private DMs with kids about, their feelings and whether they're trans or not, that kind of stuff. It's all grooming.
What an interesting comparison, Brahma, because
Well,
that
Chad
guy,
got me there a little bit, because Chad said something way back at the beginning that he sounds like a groomer.
yes.
When he's talking about your sons look up to me, not up to
Yes.
you.
Well, and what about that? Like, we've got two fathers on the panel. What do you I mean, that's why fathers need to really be involved in your kid's life. And Michael hearing what Samuel's friends were talking about, know what your kids are listening to, because this guy is literally the voice of the devil. He's trying to divide kids from their father in this situation. Your father's a loser. Your father does nothing good. I'm the one you want to look up to. Live like me, not that loser. I mean, that is such the voice of the devil.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to show you. Well, actually, let me play. I think this is a separate clip from that same portion. Let me just see if this is more from that part.
Has power because it is backed by the threat of violence. My sons know if they disrespect me, there will be consequences.
What do you think you owe them? What do you think you owe your kids?
It's a really good question. Let me quickly analyze if I owe them or if they owe me. Because I feel like they owe a lot to our last name. I feel like they're heavily indebted already. I feel like they owe me, and they owe my father, and they owe our last name, and they owe our bloodline. I feel like they owe me. I owe them the best chance they can be to be their best selves. Of course I do. And I am heavily interested. I am father of the year. Anyone who thinks I'm not a father, I guarantee you I spend more time micromanaging my son's upbringing to make him a hero than you can possibly believe. So I do have a duty to them to give them the best possible chance, but they have a duty to me to not squander it. My children have a massive burden over their head, which is the Tate name. And people often say, oh, you know, it's bad to have a father who you're trying to live up to. Da, da, da. I mean, I'm sure loads of psychologists say this.
Just imagine trying to live up to a unrepentant pornographer and pimp. I mean, if your dad is like, you know, it's like, how am I going to beat that?
Yeah.
Sorry. You know, an abuser of women, and, you know, that he's got child rape and sex trafficking charges. How are you going to beat that? Sorry.
Well, yeah, I
see
somebody in the chat mentioned examining his hard drive. Well, he recently bragged on the Candace Owens podcast or whatever it was that you know, he's the Navy SEAL of this, of basically, you know, forcing women to work for him, and you know, they can come after him because what do you think? He said, do you think I don't wipe my phone every night? He said, do you think I leave evidence? He said, come after me, come get me.
Oh, I have that clip if you want it, Keri.
Yeah, send me that, because
Okay.
people may not have seen that, but it's him. Yeah, it's him bragging about destroying evidence, basically.
There's nothing in the statement that he made that says he would lay down his life for any of his kids.
No.
Or do anything for any of his
Yes.
kids
Yes.
other than expect them to turn out the way that he wants them to. There is no love or respect for the kids at all in any of that statement.
No.
I've got some scripture pulled up so we can go through, because I want to read some. And if you guys have scripture, send it to me. I have some from Corinthians and Timothy that I want to read about what I think are good, sort of what the Bible is saying about how to be a good father and husband. Let me just thank a couple people, because I haven't been paying attention to the super chats, and there's a lot of people who I want to just thank quickly. ADL 1992 for $1.99. Thank you so much. Says he's a discount Diddy.
Yeah.
Took me a second. Yes. A lot of skeletons in his closet. ADL 1992 for $1.99 says Elon's done some good, but he's not a great man.
The one thing I'll say, last thing I'll say about Elon compared to Tate and their ideas on having kids is at least Elon's is coming from, we need to get the population turned back around. I mean, that's his whole reasoning behind it. Tate just seems like a megalomaniac.
Tate says if you don't have a lot of kids, you're not a king.
Yeah.
and not let me clarify for anyone who's confused. He doesn't mean having a lot of kids with your wife, like in a traditional Christian marriage. He's saying if you don't have a lot of kids with lots of different women and create lots of different single mom households, you're not a king.
Right.
Right. Both kind of have the wrong idea, but I can understand from I can kind of understand why Musk believes the way he does, because he's not coming from a Christian background, at least that I know of. So,
yeah. Also, ADL 1992 for $9.99. Thank you so much, sir. He says, I heard elsewhere that Tate's father is a narcissist who got angry when his wife asked him to do chores. He abandoned his family without paying child support. Like father, like son. I don't know if that's true. I haven't done research on his parents, but I'll tell you, ADL, if it is true, it's not surprising to me. I watch a lot of true crime. I'm very fascinated with the origin of evil in the human heart and what gets a human to turn down that path. And a lot of times there's a parent, one or both parents, who were either absent or were abusive or failed in some way. Mark for $2. Thank you, Mark. Says, by all accounts, Tate has no kids, at best one girl. He also followed up with, at most, he has one child that we know of.
I didn't know
Claims
that.
to have a son there. I know he has a girl. I've seen. I actually what caught everyone's attention is he was holding her hand. But okay, they're walking along the street. I've got two men here. What does a man do when a woman is walking and you're along the street? Which side is the man supposed to take? We'll let you two answer.
You're supposed to walk on the side closest to the cars.
There you go. He had the little girl on the side with the cars.
What?
Yeah. You also had a big super chat a little ways back.
Yes,
I'm
yeah,
not sure
you
that
got-
you went
I
far
feel-
enough back.
I feel you've got a few.
Savrix, thank you so much. Haven't seen you in a while, dude. It's good to see you. He says for $49.99, thank you for your generosity. He says, hi, Keri and others. The individual self is responsible to detect and determine what is genuine knowledge and false rogue information. I suggest that many people have been duped by groupthink, and their compassion is being used against them.
Well, and the groupthink, that's what I was going to get. That's I use the word political brain rot a lot. That's why he associates himself with Elon Musk, with Donald Trump, because as soon as he does that, there's X amount of the population that's like, we got to defend him because he's one of us. He's with Trump. So like, he must be a good guy. And it's like, no, that doesn't mean that.
Right.
There's a word for that. Forced teaming. Have you heard that phrase, Michelle?
No.
It's if you go through like the different descriptors that they have for tactics that sociopaths use or narcissists use, one of the tactics has been named or described as forced teaming, and that's where they try and manipulate you by, either doing something that makes you feel indebted to them. Like a lot of times I notice Tate retweets people. He retweets people, and he has a big following. And so people who I'm surprised are defending him. Like I saw the Hodge twins defending him the other day or something. And I'm like, why are the Hodge twins defending him? And then I looked at his Twitter feed and he had been retweeting them last month about other stuff. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's
Well, and the Hodge twins have been having porn stars on as guests as well.
Oh,
lately,
I didn't know that.
Oh.
Well,
Okay.
what's her face? They did a whole sit down interview with the one that got kicked out of. Was it Turning Point? Brandy Love.
Okay. Mm.
So,
Well,
I mean, yeah, they've got their own morals, I guess.
well,
Yeah.
forced teaming is sort of like these little things. There's also one called a strategy they call loan sharking. That's when they actually do buy you something and then you feel indebted to them. It's like, I did you a little favor, like I boosted your account. How could you criticize me? That kind of thing. Demogeny, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. Says, I think that guy's a little bit self-centered.
Just a little.
Brett, hey Brett, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, you know who else Tate kind of reminds me of that was big in the news in the last few years?
Who?
Is remember Jack Murphy from the Tim Pool show?
Yeah.
He had the same kind of little scheme going.
Yes. Michael, I think I've sent you videos of him in the past. He was like
I
a big,
didn't
big
see
dude.
that. Okay.
Big burly guy with a gigantic,
beard.
gray
right?
and black beard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He conned me. I interviewed him. I believe he was totally legit. I believed in his masculinity and men. I was like, this is great. You got a program where you're, and then actually the thing is, don't feel bad if you've been conned by someone like Tate or whoever, because if it happens to you, every time it happens, you're learning a little bit. So hopefully you're less likely to be conned in the future. Now I feel like I'm pretty, I know I'm not, but I feel like I'm sometimes like, I've got this figured out. Then I'll get conned again by someone and I'm like, oh, there's still more to learn.
I think we've all become a lot more discerning over the past few years because a lot of people woke up to how much we do get conned by different people and by our own government and everything else in the past 5 years.
Our
Yes.
media.
Well,
Yes.
and
Definitely
something-
the media.
And something else I was thinking about too, about Tate, because I'm thinking of like the lies that he sells. So another lie he sells. So what is, we're about to begin to look at scripture. What is the first thing you almost think of when you think of a man scripturally? Like provider, but protector. Like
Yes.
they're the stronger sex, like they are the protector. And he sells that men, the way you assert the fact that you are dominant is to dominate.
Mhm.
Is to basically beat that woman into submission, which that's the opposite of actually being the stronger one. Like if you think, let's go to the character Superman. Clark Kent could beat the crap out of every single person on Earth, But he doesn't. He refrains himself because he knows he could physically beat the crap out of someone with one punch. My point is, the stronger you are, it actually takes a level of restraint. Like, do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, it actually, strength is for men is actually in restraining the fact, yeah, you could beat the crap out of a woman, but you don't.
Yeah. Well, and there's been videos surfaced, recently, at least I've seen him recently, of him doing exactly that, of abusing. I guess there's some debate on how old of the girl is, but it was flat out abuse. Yeah.
If it's the one I think you're talking about, Michael, her name is, pseudonym is Vivian, and she's one of the charges that he's facing in court in Romania, and they have verified both through his statements about when the video was made, her birthday, which was verified by her the country she was born in, and by the platform she was on, that she was 15 in that video.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
By his own statements,
Yes.
So I've got some Bible verse. Oh, let me just thank Brett real quick. Brett, for the $5 super chat. Thank you. He says, wow, I can't believe people like Andrew Tate exist in this world. He says such degrading things about people.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also says, hello, Michelle. And hi, Michael. I love the more controversial topics. It makes life more interesting.
And then I think you just got a new one too, Keri. Super chat.
Gunmore. For No K 50. Thank you so much for the super chat. I don't what is No K?
I know it and I forget. It's Andre from Midnight's Edge. It's wherever he was from. It's
Norway.
Norway?
Yeah, I think it might be Norway.
Norway. Thank you so much. Okay, so we've got some scripture that I want to put up, and then I was going to play a little game where I read you a quote and you guys tell me if you think it's from the Bible or from Andrew Tate.
Yeah. It's a Norwegian krona.
Or Norwegian krona. Well, thank you, Gunmore. Okay. First, this is the scripture you sent me, Michelle. Let's see. Let me put this one up first. Actually,
that's the Candace Owens thing where he confesses to scrubbing his phone every night. Which, by the way, all of the people in the everyone at like the NSA and things could still recover that.
Right. Oh, that's what you sent me. Okay, got you.
Yeah, that's what that was.
It also contradicts everything he says in the other video of, I welcome them coming after me. I want to go to jail. I want to have this.
Here he goes. Oh, well, he's very upset. Yeah, if you guys don't know, because Florida said they've opened, the attorney general there said they've opened an investigation into the Tate brothers. There is a Florida, one of the victims, one of the accusers is based in Florida. Some of these crimes allegedly happened in Florida. And so they've now opened an investigation. He's really angry about it.
Yeah, I would say good for Ron DeSantis for, taking a stand and saying he doesn't want him in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought, we're in the era of, we've got Trump back in office. We're all about saying, we don't want sex traffickers here.
Right.
Yeah. Candace Owens, though, is very unhappy with Ron DeSantis. So I just want to point that out, but we can continue on.
Come get me, arrest me, perp walk me, put me on the news, tell everyone I'm a human trafficker. You think I'm not versed? You think I'm not ready? I'm a Navy SEAL in this shit. Fucking come get me, raid my house, take my stuff. You think I sleep with a full phone full of evidence? You think I don't wipe my phone every night? You think I'm dumb? Come get me, arrest me. Let's do this all over again. I've done it before. Come get me, arrest me, perp walk me, put me on the.
So there he is saying, I destroy evidence every night. Police, just so you know.
Yep.
Isn't that couldn't that be separate charges? Like,
yeah.
You just said on camera you're destroying evidence.
But he's not an idiot.
Right. He has tweeted that he is the smartest man alive.
He's convinced of that. That's obvious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's also saying that he's going to run for premier in Britain next term. But I believe he has pending charges over there, so I don't think he can.
Brahma, England has made it where Romania has to send him back to England to face charges as soon as they're finished.
Extradite him as soon as they're, yeah.
So when are they getting him out of here?
Well, he's got to be back in Romania at the end of this month because he has a court appearance, which also contradicts the lie that he has no charges.
Yeah.
You think he's actually going to go back?
No, I don't think he is.
The only way it happens is if we extradite him, I think. But he was
Yeah.
born in the U.S. and raised in the U.K. I'm assuming he's technically a U.S. citizen.
I don't think he's going back. We would have to.
But see, look at what he's doing. He's a problem because Trump doesn't need this mess. So then the U.S. is going to have to send him back to Romania, at which point you're going to have X amount of these idiots online fussing. Like it's just he's causing chaos for no reason.
Well, I mean, I think the better alternative would be for Trump to get him out if there's real evidence of these charges, and then blast just how sick this guy is, get it out there so people understand this is why he was sent back. Like, this is not a good guy, whatever you might think. I mean,
which is why I brought up earlier that Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, was, fangirling all over him on Benny's show. I mean, that's the person who's going to be advising Trump on the Tates if it even gets on Trump's real radar. I mean,
oh, this is funny. Hey, Brian from Space Couch. You guys go and check out Space Couch. I have an interview with Brian Graffner from the band The Gossicles and Gasoline and Vertebrate. That's who this is. Anyway, he says it's a case for ending birthright citizenship.
oh, that's who that is? He was he did the election night stream with us then.
Yes, he did. That's Space Couch.
Okay. I didn't know his YouTube name.
Okay, we're going to play a little game. I'm going to read now, you guys in the chat, especially the non-believers, because you may not be as familiar with some of the scripture. So I want you to tell me, is this from the philosophy of Tate or is this from the gospel, from the Bible? Okay. Here's one. This is some advice. You tell me if it's advice from Tate or from the Bible. Be on your guard. Stand firm in the faith. Be courageous. Be strong. Do everything in love.
Well, I know
I'd say the Bible on that one.
Sounds a little bit gospel-y.
Yes,
the Bible. It's the Bible. Ding, ding, ding. It's First Corinthians.
We were supposed to wait for the chat.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, they all said the Bible too. It's the gospel. It's the Bible. Okay, we'll wait a little longer next time.
Nope, we've collected the other sibling. Natalie's here.
Yeah, Natalie.
Natalie. What's up, Natalie? So you guys got it right. That's the Bible. It's from 1 Corinthians 16 verses 13 through 14. Okay. Here's the next one. Some other advice. Stressed, get some bitches. Sad, get some bitches. Happy, get some bitches. Poor, get some bitches. Rich, get some bitches. Dying, get some bitches. Alive, get some bitches. Now, is that from the Bible? Good advice from the Bible or from Andrew Tate?
I think it's safe to say.
Didn't Solomon say that?
Solomon would see. Solomon's actually a good example because he would write a whole book saying it's meaningless, all meaningless.
Those who said Tate.
Someone said the New Gangster Translation.
This is the New Gangster Translation. What is that new translation of the Bible? That
the Message. It gets on my nerves.
Okay, this is Tate. This is actually something he tweeted this month, February 19th.
Oh my gosh!
Some of his advice on, the what ails you, what to do when something ails you. That's a very new edition of the Bible. The Old Pimp's Testament. You guys are funny. No, that's not biblical. Okay. Here we've got another one. This is some wisdom. Oh gosh.
Oh gosh, what are we about to hear?
Wedlock is designed to control the peasantry. Kings must reproduce at any cost.
That would be from Sir Tate.
That's from Sir Tate. There you go. You got it. I'm not going to leave you hanging on that one.
Wedlock is designed to control the peasantry. Wow.
Yeah. Marriage. Marriage. Actually, what does the Bible say about marriage?
Yeah.
Yep.
The peasantry. Okay, I've got one more. Let's see. Okay. Now the overseer is to be above reproach, faithful to his wife, temperate, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not given to drunkenness, not violent, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money. He must manage his own family well and see that his children obey him, and he must do so in a manner worthy of full respect. What is
Mhm.
That would be the Apostle Paul.
Yeah. Sounds
That
like
would
Paul
be-
to me.
That would be pretty much the exact opposite of everything we saw
Mhm.
Tate say.
Yep.
correct? Anybody who's curious, this is from 1 Timothy chapter 3, verses 2-7. It's from a section on like how to select good men who are qualified, who have the right temperament, and who have demonstrated wisdom in their lives to select the right men to be shepherds, to be deacons, to be overseers in the church, to be elders, basically.
Yeah.
And so you're exactly right. I mean, I think that it's the exact opposite of everything Tate says about what men are about, like what men are, what their job is, what their role is, what makes them a good man.
Yeah, I think Paul gives us a great example there of what it should look like, and I think John gives us a great example of how to deal with those like Andrew Tate. You know, when he talks about that, you know, as we walk with Christ, he said that you have a help on the inside, that you don't have to have somebody tell you truth from error. You can recognize it. You know, so he's saying that, you know, God himself can help us to recognize, you know, truth versus error, and, you know, recognize these kind of messages as being from what they are. You know, they're not from God. They're not going to lead you to happiness. They're not going to lead you to peace. They're going to lead you to misery. You know, it's really, really a dangerous message, you know, that this guy's got out there.
Yeah. It's just so, I don't know. It's so obvious to me that he's leading people down the wrong path that it's hard for me to imagine. Like I said, I've been conned before, but for some reason, this one just seems so obvious to me that it's hard for me to put myself in the shoes of young men who are listening to him and are like, yeah, this sounds right.
And that's exactly why I didn't take him serious, because it was so absurd. I was like, nobody could be listening to this guy. But I was wrong. A lot of people are listening to this guy.
Well, and I think I think the danger here that we've kind of already hit on is he's very immature. He's not going to work on Brahma Michael. He's going to try to work on Michael's, you know, Samuel, Luke, his sons, because they're young, their brains are not developed, and it's appealing as they're hitting puberty, kind of the, you know, it's just appealing this, oh yeah, let's go explore. Let's do this. Let's do that. And their brains aren't developed enough to even understand what is coming at them.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's something more sinister in our social media. Andrew Tate's at the very bottom of a slippery slope. People get into Andrew Tate through things like the Men Go Their Own Way movement, which is all over YouTube. If you get sucked into one video, then it just rabbit holes until you get to somebody like Tate. But the whole idea is they're preaching that marriage is bad for the man because of no-fault divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So they're advising everybody not to ever get married and just to do your own thing. Tate is at the bottom of that hill.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Well, definitely. And, you know, that goes back again, because bringing this back to the fact that it's a Christian panel, the first thing that God institutes in the Bible is marriage. That is the first thing he institutes. He has Adam, he creates Eve, he has them marry. That is the very first thing that we see in Scripture, and that tells you what level of value God puts upon marriage.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
And that's where, I mean, maybe you two men can say, to combat that lie, I could name obvious things that a healthy marriage is good for a female. Do you guys, from your own male perspective, want to give what are things that in a good, healthy marriage, a man gets out of it?
Respect, love, children. I mean, that as a man, typically your family is your whole life. I mean, I do work because I need to provide for my family, but that's because I love my family, and you want the respect of your family and the love of your family. These guys are talking about a completely different thing where it's all transactional.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think if just summing it up, like to the bottom, like the root of it is, when you are in a healthy marriage and the family is healthy, really what it does is, regardless of all the other things you may be doing, maybe, you've got a job, maybe you've got a business, maybe whatever else you've got going on, the things you're doing for your family, those are the things that kind of energize you and help you to do the other things. That's what I have found. And so, I think it all works together.
Yeah, I think Nunya put it pretty well. He gets purpose.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good way of describing it.
Yeah.
He gets purpose, and then it also goes back to, and this speaks to kind of some of these men who just want to have endless escapades. Back to, again, what is the first thing God says? Why does he create Eve? It is not good for man to be alone. So literally just a form of companionship and a man having that helpmate to be with him throughout life, men and women both having a helpmate in each other. And it's like men like Andrew Tate, I guess he's just going to live with Tristan, his brother, the rest of their lives, which is kind of gay, if I'm being honest. But like it's just the two of them together all the time with their shirts off. It's really weird.
I mean, doesn't everything he says kind of strike you as
it's a little
kind of a gay man?
A lot of it is. I mean, he says stuff like men who post pictures of their wives or proud of their wives or show affection to their wives in public are cucks, and that's a homosexual thing to do.
Didn't he also say at one point that he would date a trans woman?
He did. He said, guys, I would rather, in his words, F a 9 trans woman than a 5 of an actual woman. We were like,
yeah, that sounds familiar. Yep.
It's like that's not.
I got news for you. That makes you gay.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's
Natalie said it's giving Mementos brothers.
No. I have I don't know. Well, let me ask you this question. Because you're asking, like, what is, if you were describing to a non-believer or someone who they're open to the possibility of God, but they haven't had that experience. They haven't had that experience with Jesus. They haven't come step through the doorway yet, I guess, put it that way. If you were describing monogamy and marriage and what you get from it, you described it as a man. Here's what I would say as a woman. You tell me if it's similar, because I'm genuinely curious now. As a woman, you have this person who you are committed to, who you become. The Bible says you become one flesh. You're this third entity now. There's you, and there's your spouse, and then there's this third. There's us. There's us with God, like, and us is something that you have to treat with the greatest respect, and because there's us, like, everything you do is sort of making sure you protect that. That's at the top. That God's at the top of your hierarchy, and then us. Mm-hmm. And because because you were saying, I'm with you through thick and thin. I'm with you through the trials in life and through the darkness and through the times that I let you down and the times that you let me down and all the failings and all those human things and through sin and all of it. And we're going to find our way back to each other and to God. Like you experience an intimacy there that is impossible to experience with baby mamas or people that you have this like casual sexual relationship with.
Yeah.
And so that's how I view it as a woman. Is it incredibly different from men? I don't think so, but I'm not a man. But that's how I view it, is like, that's what I'm getting from this guy. That's what I'm getting from this guy who I'm saying, yes, I'm tying my life to you. I'm becoming one flesh with you.
Yeah, no, I think that is, it's the same for men. Yeah. I think the bigger question is, I think that actually having that, as somebody who pastored for over a decade and, had a lot of counseling sessions and things, it's very rare that people are able to kind of preserve that us. And oftentimes that part of it gets broken very early in the marriage. And then, everything becomes difficult from there on out. So I like the way you put that there's us and you have to protect that because that's very true.
And I've said it on streams before, and I think I've said it on the Christian panel before. That's why it's important in a marriage that for the man, your wife always is who you love the most. I mean, after God, obviously, but even your kids, you are being an example for them and raising them by loving your wife more than you love your kids, because that is part of that vow.
Yes.
You should always love your kids, but when it comes down to it, your spouse is who you are intertwined with.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely got to protect it.
Which goes back to like the advice that Tate is offering to sort of, have all these different baby mamas. And so if it's already inverted, because you're already saying, well, I can be a great father without having to be present in the room and without having to be married and with that. So you're already not even modeling for the child, like how to, you're not loving their mother. You're not modeling how to be a family unit, a family unit, which is the building block of a society. It's like, you're not even there to do that. So I don't know. It's so backwards.
And Keri, I put a good scripture for marriage if you want that in the private chat.
I thought you sent me another Candace Owens.
Oh, no, it's not Candace. It's scripture.
Oh, okay. Wait, who sent me this Candace Owens one?
Oh, that was me earlier, but the last one I did is the scripture. I think the one you saw was the one we played.
Oh, okay. Got you. No, it keeps coming up on, it's 2 copies of that.
Oh, hold on one second. Let me see if I can just.
Or you can share it.
Here we go. I can share it. There we go. Yeah. Ephesians 5:25-29. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her, so that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, that he might present to himself the church in all her glory, having no spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she would be holy and blameless. So husbands also ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his own wife loves himself. For no one who ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ also does for the church, or does the church.
I love that. Thank you, Michelle.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
That's not the gospel of Tate.
No. And I think Brahma's already hit it. Like either you or Brahma said it. Like he doesn't even express like the desire to protect his own children, let alone does this man have like an actual sacrificial love for like another woman that would be expressed and passed down to his kids.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I was just saying that, clearly you see there that the biblical way is that there's going to be sacrifice if you're a husband. Christ sacrificed himself for the church. He said, likewise, you treat your wife and love your wife the same way. So, what he is saying is obviously polar opposite of that. And what's so crazy about this, guys, it's not even just polar opposite of that. It's to such an extreme that I can't believe he's become so mainstream, with his abuse and his outright disrespect and misogyny, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say, Keri, that was something I heard Megyn Kelly said, which it was so true. She said, look, everyone, because of what the left did for years, we're scared to just say the word. She said, but occasionally we all need to point at someone like Andrew Tate and say, that is a misogynist. That is the definition of a misogynist.
Yes.
We all agree and move on. Like, that's it. Not this other stuff they've said all these years, but that is.
Well,
And not just a misogynist, he hates men too.
He does.
Like his future, like the world he envisions, like what he is selling, as you mentioned, what's at the heart of it for men. He's saying your worth is found in money. And look, this is what he said. He tweeted this month also. This was February 19th. He was talking about how all women are sex workers, even married women, and that they're just ugly and they only have one client. Married women. and people were like, wait, what? And so then he goes, yes, listen, this is what he says. This is how it's not like, I knew you. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, which is what God says about you. Mm-hmm. You are an image bearer of God, of the creator who molded you. God knew who you were before you were even formed. You have a connection to him. You have a soul. You're more than this physical body and your mind. You have a soul. You're connected to your creator. You're something special. You're the son or the daughter of the most high king, right? And what does Tate say about you? He says, well, if you're a woman, you're a sex worker. And if you're a man, you're a disposable cannon fodder or a workhorse slave. That's what he says. Women are all sex workers. Men are all disposable cannon fodder or workhorse slaves. If you're a good workhorse and become the boss, then you get to have a lot of sex workers. That's it. That's his religion.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, everything with him is transactional.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he explained his entire, worldview there, that we're in this world where it's just fighting. We're all slaves, he said. The best is you get to be a workhorse that has slaves yourself. But we never get higher than a workhorse or a slave, even him. And he put himself in that category. So that's his view. That's how he views happiness. That's how he views, life.
That's so sad and disgusting. Here, let me give him my money. That sounds like a great religion.
Yeah.
I'm just a sex worker and men are just workhorse slaves. Like, that's terrible.
He's probably just trying to recruit some more women for his webcam business with that, because he's trying to tell us, we're doing it regardless. So you might as well come do it for me, I guess.
Well, the Oscars, which nobody watches anymore.
Yes.
But I did hear that. I heard some of the speeches, and so the sex worker community was really lifted up at the Oscars. It was really kind of glorified. They said we pay a lot of respect, to these women. They didn't say like thank you for helping us for the thing. They were really lifting it up as this is kind of a viable lifestyle. Yeah, this is a good thing.
Oh, yeah, Keri, I don't know if you saw that, because that movie, Aurora, or whatever it's called, it won Best Picture, it won all kinds of things, and that's what it's about. It's basically a more true-to-life pretty woman that does it in Happy, with a lot of, like, nudity in it, is what it is, I guess. And that's the way Natalie and I discussed it on our live stream. It was uncomfortable the way they kept doing it. As Michael said, they didn't just say, thank you for all the women who talked with us and told us their story. No, they tried to present it like it was this empowering thing. And instead of just call it what it is, they call it, sex workers. Like it's a great career that some little girl is born and thinks, Mommy, I want to be a sex worker.
Well, I mean, they were throwing it out there as a respectable option.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just, what's it called? Anora. I just looked it up.
Or Aurora.
Anora. Anora.
Wow, Best Picture. I had never even heard of
And
this.
Best Actress.
Yes, she beat Demi Moore, which was a tragedy.
Right, but I mean, they were originally going to give it to the guy. So when that all fell apart, they just went with the next worst thing that they could.
Oh he's selling the same thing. He's
Yeah.
selling the same thing that leftist Hollywood celebrities are selling, which is nihilism, materialism, hedonism. That's it. It's like, life is just meaningless crap, and you're a slave or a sex worker, and that's it. And there's no meaning or purpose, and you just need to get lots of money and be a total hedonist, and nothing matters. Like he's just selling the same thing that the left sells. That's his faith.
Well, I mean, Keri, it's kind of like if you want to use someone said it, it's true. Like he really is. I know everyone doesn't like this term, but he is kind of the woke right. Like it is what it is. Like they're the same. Him and some of these in Hollywood, they're selling the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I've seen all these dirty birds. Just they flock together, and he was like. He's also, there's not time for it now, but aside from all the stuff he's saying about men and women and families and marriage and masculinity and wedlock and all this stuff, he's also saying a lot of the same kind of what's being called woke right, racist stuff as well. And it's like, why is all this stuff, now that we have achieved some political success and there's sort of a glimmer of hope on the horizon politically, why is it all of a sudden you see all these people in the culture space pushing just bad ideas and like woke kind of ideology, but from the right? I don't, it's just coming out of nowhere. It's like, oh, we have some momentum. Okay, now we're going to get on this bandwagon of like race matters and sex matters. And if you're this sex, that means you're the root of all evil. And if you're this race, you're the root of all evil. And that's what the woke do.
Yeah.
Well, I think some of it. Well, I think some of the people who are promoting it, it's somewhat of a grift, if we're being real on that front. The ones that are making money off of it, but for others, I go back to what I call political brain rot, where the left was this extreme, so we're gonna swing the pendulum all the way over here, and they're kind of similar. Like they kind of, I don't know, they kind of meet at a point. They swung so far.
Yeah, the far right and the far left kind of cross.
Yeah, like it's kind of like a ride, and instead of just going straight across, they kind of
the horseshoe
back up.
Yeah, the horseshoe. Well, let me think a couple more people. KB is here. Hey, KB, what's up? For $2, thank you. Says it's amazing how guys like Tate tend to spring up. Yeah, I'm still flabbergasted.
Yeah.
Savrix became a member. Thank you, Savrix.
I really do think it is, though, that it's going down a rabbit hole on social media. It doesn't start with Tate.
No. That's why if you're introduced to him sort of and you haven't gone down this whole path to get to him, maybe that's why to us it's so unfathomable. Like, how could you haven't, I don't know, you haven't accepted certain things by degree.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's even shows that, a lot of people on the right have accepted, like Whatever Cast. Whatever Cast is like an entry point to this type of thinking. It just does it in a different way because it's putting everything on the women.
Yes.
Always.
Well, I heard somebody, he was a guy, I think it was on Tucker Carlson's show, and he was about my age. I'm the oldest millennial, 43. And he brought up a point that I'd never thought of before. And he said, that our generation, he said the millennials were groomed. He said we were just groomed differently. We were groomed for sexual immorality, cheap sex, all that, quick fixes. He said, we were groomed in all of that. He said, look at the movies that came out when we were growing up. Look at the music that was pushed at us, with sexualization of young girls.
Like Britney Spears at 15.
Yeah. And so, I had never thought of it that way, but it's true. I mean, we were like just dumped in immorality and kind of living, not a real productive life.
I can attest to that. I mean, I'm a little bit older than all of you, but I'm on the tail end of Gen X. I'm like, some people would say, like back when they were arguing over where the dates start and when they end, they're like, oh, you're a millennial. But then it's like, no, I'm Gen X.
Me, you, and Michael, I think So same thing. I'm 43. I think what they call us the Zennials because
Yeah.
we are not true millennials and we are not true Generation X.
We're
That's
right
right,
on the
yeah.
line. And I'm like, as the end of Gen X, though, we went through that. That's one way in which I think I would agree with we went through that thing you're talking about that millennials went through, where it's sort of we were raised in a culture. The culture at large had rejected Christianity, had basically decided, we're so smart and evolved now, and only dumb people believe in a creator.
Yeah.
And there is no roadmap, there is no book that gives you sort of a guideline for how to live a good life. You just need to figure out everything on your own, as reinvent the wheel with each person, sort of like you just test the boundaries and you need to figure it out, and threw us out into the world. And then from the woman's perspective, you were getting all this stuff that's like, it's empowering to have, all of that to be.
That's where you get like Sex in the City around that time.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
what's empowering for women to do.
Yeah.
Be slutty.
Yes.
Yeah,
To sleep
yeah.
with the whole city.
Right.
Sleep with the whole city. Yeah. That is what that show was, right? Oh man. Yeah, but that's exactly what happened. And so I don't know. I feel for young people today. I think I don't know. Gen Z, it seems like there are some studies that say they're going to be more conservative than previous generations. That
Well,
they're
they've gone that way.
yeah. So I think
the males are definitely going that
Yeah.
way at this
Mhm.
point.
Yeah.
well, I feel for them.
Well, they're told they're useless and worthless at all points in their life at this point.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's what's so critical at this juncture. We don't need those men to go down the rabbit hole that Brahma has talked about, because then that's just going to push the women further away, because they actually are becoming misogynistic.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like
And vice
we need
versa.
them both to come this. We need men to be men and show what a good man is. That we got to pull some of those younger girls over who I mean, they're going after them hard too with other stuff. So it's like we don't need. They're trying to make it just further and further apart, and we need it to get closer.
There are these attacks happening right now. I feel, have you guys seen this? It feels like I keep getting these men in my comments who are saying these things, and they sound just like feminists
Yes.
to me. And I'm like, wow, you sound
Yeah.
just like a feminist, because they come into my comments and they're like, women are the root of all da da da, and it's women's fault that societies, and women are the one that da da da. And it's like, wow, you sound just like feminists who come into
Yeah.
my comments and say men are the root of all da da da, and it's men's fault that blah blah blah. And men, like, could it be that human beings, that we are fallen creatures, that we have a capacity for good or evil, all of us, men or women, and that we both have failed in different ways? And that could it be that the way that you fix this is not by demonizing one sex and elevating another? It's by fulfilling what God is, the way God created us, one man, one woman, like coming together. Maybe that's the answer. It's not like this sort of, men are all evil, women are all evil. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, both, they're two sides of the same coin, and it does seem like there's, whatever you want to call them, male chauvinist or beside, whatever you want to call them, the kind of the male version of feminism. There is a growing group of that on the right, kind of the far right, that I've noticed. I don't know. Have you noticed that, Michelle? Or anyone else?
Absolutely. It's the whole spear that Brahma spoke about.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The MGTOW sphere, also
okay.
sometimes called the red pill sphere.
Oh, red pill. Yeah, that's what I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, right here, I just pulled up Twitter, and what's that idiot pastor's name? Joel
Webben.
He literally, let me quote, in a nutshell, in general, I don't want to see women in the public sphere. So we gotta remove ourselves from the whole public sphere. We're not even allowed.
Okay, so this is a pastor, and I think he's actually in my town, in Georgetown. And
really?
yes, and he previously, it's so funny that now he says women should not have podcasts, should not be in politics, should not have jobs outside of the home.
Now we can't leave the home.
Should not be seen in public. That's what he says. Well, just 2 short years ago, he was hitting me up constantly to be on my podcast. So it's like, and he was on Allie Beth Stuckey, and Allie Beth Stuckey actually came forward and said, you know, not only was he on my podcast, but he tricked her ad team. He bought a 15-minute ad spot on her program and then said the ad spot is you interviewing me. So he like tricked her into an interview. It wasn't an organic interview. He's promoted himself. He's been interviewed on Pearly things, and Candace Owens played a clip of his and he was excited. So the thing about him is it took me a long time to get to that point, because the Bible says be slow to anger. And I think also, like, you know, my friend Samuel Say, his blog is called Slow to Write and Slow to Form an Opinion. And this guy, I used to think back when we were messaging and stuff, I was like, oh, this is awesome. It's another based pastor in my town. That's so cool. Like, there's more people who are speaking out against this. There's more churches that are speaking out against all the stuff that's happening, the culture war stuff. And back then he seemed, I mean, to talk about someone conning you, he did seem based to me. And then it wasn't until the past year or so, I've been for a while now, like for a year, watching his stuff, because I'm like, what's happening to him? Is he changing, or has he always been this way? But this man is a false shepherd. He's just as false as the woke. He's just as false as the woke shepherds, the ones who come out there and say they preach the opposite of the gospel. He's out there preaching currently that he just did a thing. I saw clips from one of his things where he said that white people have a higher IQ than black people because God has blessed us genetically because of our ancestors being devout, being loyal to God.
He's a real great guy.
That's crazy. And by the way, if you believe that, then you somehow believe that that's also why that's why Southeast Asians have a higher IQ than white people. Are they being rewarded for legacies of Christianity? I don't think they have legacies of Christianity.
No, doesn't. I'm not familiar with that history.
Yeah,
It's kind of like Nick Cannon going out there and saying that black people have more empathy because they've got more melanin.
Yes, meaning it's woke.
Yeah,
It is woke. It's like black people have more empathy. They have more melanin. They're better. Or you know, in his case, white people have a higher IQ because God's blessing, because they're more godly and they're closer to God. Like, what do you? These things are both woke.
yeah.
I'm sorry. You said his name, Michelle, and I was like, do I want to talk about that? Anyway, what were you saying that he said? He doesn't want to see women in public, right?
Yeah, women, in a nutshell, in general, I don't want to see women in the public sphere.
Well, he also, since you mentioned him,
Does he pastor a church?
Yes, he pastors a church, but he has what he's really been doing is leaning into this sort of neo-Nazi white supremacist stuff online. And so I think it's a much larger online presence now than at his church. I think it's this sort of. So here's a clip of him talking about Tate. Since you brought him up, do you mind if I share this?
No.
Have you seen
Real quick before you do, I got to get going,
Okay.
but I don't want to stop the show. So hope you guys have a great evening, and come check out the bullpen on Sunday mornings if you like some politics. All right,
Take care.
have a good one.
See you, Brahma.
Nice to meet you, Michael.
Yep, you too.
So, Michael, you're a pastor. Is that right?
I was, yes.
You were. Can you this is something. I don't know what this is. So what he's arguing here. Now, if you think there's some merit to and there's some nuance to this, feel free, like, share it, because I want to hear it.
Yeah.
But he's basically saying that Andrew Tate is sinning, but he's sinning in the right direction. That you can sin in the right direction, or you can sin in the wrong direction.
All right, I'd like to hear this.
Okay.
And let's just say it. I feel like it goes without saying, but obviously it doesn't. So let's say it. What do we not like about Andrew Tate? What do we denounce?
Where to start?
He's Muslim.
Yep.
He worships a demon god named Allah. He's a foreigner. He doesn't live in England. He's traveling the world saying that he's for nationalism, but going into countries that are not his own.
He is perverse
He's
and
perverse.
profane as the day is long, without any filter whatsoever.
Crude, perverse, lewd. He sexualizes women, which is not Christian masculinity.
Right.
It is masculine. It is masculine.
Right.
It is masculine, but it's masculinity debased by sin. It is contorted and corrupted masculinity. But it is when I say it's still masculine. Maybe you've heard this expression. Maybe you haven't. Some people don't like it. So
Which means it's a good one.
Which means it's good. Yeah. Have you ever heard somebody say, he's sinning, but he's sinning in the right direction? Have you ever heard that adage? It's like,
no, I haven't.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, we have. Yeah.
I've been
Wait.
here my whole life and haven't heard that one.
Who are these two guys on the side? Who are they?
These are his underlings at his church. So and these are basically his yes men who come on all of the shows and agree with him, and he's in the middle. And this whole, there's so much more about this guy, that like his whole persona and everything has changed many times. He used to paint himself in blue and was a preacher in California. Now he's here in Georgetown, Texas, but he has changed his theology, like what he talks, like it's constantly, almost like you would say, maybe like a con artist. But these guys, he's got them on there to say, yes, you're so right. That's my take on it.
That's
okay,
what I picked up on.
So sinning in the right direction. Here we go.
Can be in the right direction. To sin is to miss the mark. It's to point, the bow in the wrong direction. It's to go the opposite of the direction of God. And so, like, all sin is in the wrong. Yes. No, duh. Of course, all sin is going away from God. It's rebelling against God. And so therefore, in the macro sense, of course, in a theological ultimate sense, all sin is in the wrong direction. Here's what the expression means: to sin in the right direction. A guy who is a womanizer is sinning. Okay. Again, I said we're going to state our bona fides. So let me say that again, so it's blatantly clear. Sinning. It's sin. Andrew Tate has made a career for himself that has been marked in many ways by overt, plain, obvious sin. Of course.
Yep.
Of course. Duh.
However,
the trans library story hour is not only sin, but it's sinning in the wrong direction. It's when I'm speaking of direction, I'm speaking of nature. There's
conformity to reality.
Conformity to reality, aka the natural world that God made. Right? We live in the Father's world. He made the rules, the world, and therefore he made the rules. He gets to set up the rules by which the world is going to function. Gravity.
Yeah.
Gravity is not saved. Gravity is not born again. I'm not going to high five gravity and it's going to become my eternal best friend in heaven. Me and gravity, gravity is not a person. Okay. But gravity is Christian in the macro sense, because everything that God has made and that's functioning according to his plan is, like a tree is a glorious tree insofar as it's performing its role the way that God has made it. That it's going in the right direction. And yet even trees, you can have glorious trees, trees that are very treely, if you will. And the more treely a tree is, the more glorious a tree is. And you could say in a macro sense, the more Christian.
By the way, he really loves to hear himself talk.
I noticed.
And he's got this affected voice that he didn't used to do. Like a lot of that, the way he speaks, it makes me think of Elizabeth Holmes. Do you remember her, where she would do the deep voice because she thought that made her sound more, and it was like a fake voice? He does this weird fake voice. Anyway, let me just pause it there. What have you? It seems to me, as a layperson and as a dumb woman,
that shouldn't be in the public sphere,
that shouldn't be having thoughts or thinking or saying things. It seems to me, though, that what he's saying is that that some sins are aimed in the right direction because they are in accordance with biology. So he's saying Tate may rape and abuse women and do sex trafficking, but at least his victims are women. and not men. And that makes it better. Is that what he's saying?
Correct. Yeah, because for him, it all comes down to, how he views sex more than likely. And so, to him, fornication is a sin, definitely a sin, but at least it's a sin that's natural because you're just having sex with a woman, like no big deal. So he seems to be kind of applying that kind of logic, to the Andrew Tate situation, somehow acting like it's, at least he's, just expressing his urge with women when, he's doing far, far more than that. But my biggest takeaway from listening to the guy was that he said a lot to say basically nothing.
Yes.
Yes.
The whole thing about sinning in the right or wrong direction, whether it has some logical reasoning or not, like whether you could try and argue that, the 20-year-old kid who fornicates is in a better spot than the person who's a transgender because they're more confused and they don't know what gender. You could make those arguments, but they're not very helpful. And I don't know why he's spending time, talking about that kind of stuff. It seems that he wants to present all these kind of wild, somewhat unhelpful ideas, but they're kind of interesting if you kind of let your mind go with them and captivate people that way. That's what I take from him.
Well, and furthermore, what my mind thought of Keri listening, I guess you could say Samson was sinning in the right direction, but that sin led him to getting his eyes gauged out and dying.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes sinning in the right direction, sin is spiritual death. Like that's what it leads to.
Spiritual death.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, because I wanted to hear what people who are not laymen had to say about this in terms of scripture and examples. I really appreciate that, Michelle. It's like, it's still sin. Spiritual death is a great way to put it. And it seems like you're going to great lengths to try and excuse this guy, instead of just like, why do you have the caveat of the but at the end?
Yes.
Like, you're like, here's all the things he's depraved and all this, and then there's a big justification for promoting him. Like
That
that's
went
what it
into
is.
trees, and it was weird.
You know what, Lindsay Rose? It's a 7-minute clip, honey. You can go and watch the whole thing yourself. There's no hypocrisy there. I'm not going to spend 7 minutes on it, but I'll gladly put the link in the chat and you can go watch the whole thing. It gets worse for him from here. I'll tell you that, because if you continue the clip, the rest of it is him justifying Andrew Tate and propping up Andrew Tate. We're at the end of the show.
Yeah. And furthermore, we addressed the part that we heard, not like there's no excusing sinning in the right direction coming out of the mouth of a pastor. Like as Michael said, I get what he's trying to say, that some are like, it was
There's
how he
deeper levels or something he's trying to, get across. But again, like, it's not helpful what he's saying. Yeah.
Yes. That's the part. That's the sin. I don't think contextually you need more. There's no context that comes after that where you're like, oh, okay. Now it says he's saying something that we didn't just summarize. Like, that's
I
what
would say
saying.
he probably came up with that phrase. Like, when, how he told his guys, like, the old saying, sinning in the right direction. And they're like, oh yeah. That's probably his phrase, because nobody else says that. It's not,
it's not a thing. That's kind of Keri. Stop trying to make fetch happen. Like, that's not a thing.
Stop trying to make it happen. Okay. There's also, there is, so are you guys familiar with this podcast called Stone Choir?
No.
Okay. So Stone Choir is supposedly a Christian podcast. It's very popular right now. It's explicitly white nationalist, white supremacist. They idolize Hitler. They say Hitler was a servant of God doing God's work. Like, they actually hate this guy because they rightfully call out on X all the time that he steals all of their ideas, their sermons, their podcasts, subjects, and then he slightly waters it down and doesn't go full like, yay Hitler.
Yeah.
They're like, he's basically taking everything we do and trying to package it for a mainstream audience. Like, he's taking our white nationalism and white supremacy and trying to package it for a mainstream audience. It's pretty insane. But yeah, at least they're explicit. At least they say what they are.
Yeah.
he's pretty clever with it. I mean, the way that he, because he'll present some things that are biblically true, but then he'll be kind of like, okay, yeah, that. Then he'll present some other kind of wild, thought that kind of would lead people potentially a wrong direction.
Well,
Yes.
Mhm.
like my kicker too. I mean, we've discussed that. Say this: women in the should not be in the public sphere. Well, then how do you address like the fact that literally there's a section in Luke chapter 7 that addresses all the women that followed and contributed to Jesus's ministry? What do you do with all the women in the gospel that are in the public sphere?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, it's bizarre. Like, these people don't even understand scripture themselves.
Yes.
And I'm going to say too, nothing, I'm not saying that he's this way, not saying this. I'm just going to say it's been my personal experience, the things I've observed over life. People that are pastors who are try to be so controlling of women's behavior, it's because they have no self-control and they almost always have issues with women. And I mean that in a sinful way.
I found that to be true as well. I don't know. Like you said,
Not saying that about him. Don't know.
Generality.
It's a general thing.
Generality. Tina, hey Tina Guzman. She said Jesus never said it's okay to sin if you're sinning in the right direction.
Jesus said to the woman, "Go and sin in the right direction."
Yeah. Well, according to this guy, she was just having heterosexual adultery, so that's in the right direction. It's
yes, but there's that big but afterwards. Oh man, every time you do the but, it's like a big what did they say? An invalidation of everything else you just said.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you guys, I've kept you here far too long. We usually go an hour. Michael, it's your first introduction to this panel. We kept you for 2 hours.
Oh, that's all right. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Well, I appreciate you. And Michelle, I love you. You have an awesome sister. She's I'll just say one of the best people that I've met online.
Oh, you're saying for Michael to me. You were looking at me, so I didn't know if you were saying Natalie.
Oh, well, on my screen, I'm looking here. Let me move my screen so my eyes are more in the right direction. My eyes are in the right direction, sitting in the right direction. Now, Michael, I don't know if I'm looking at you now. My camera's in a weird place. I'm just saying your sister's awesome.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Keri.
Yes. And
we're like, Natalie's great too.
Natalie's great too. Natalie's not here right now.
I thought you were talking about Natalie because you were looking at Michelle. So I thought
Natalie's great too. They're two of the most solid people. And I've introduced them to many people. And I'm like, you have to meet Michelle and Natalie because they're two of the most solid people. And that's for real. That's not blowing smoke. Like, there are so many fake people. As Brahma said, it's been a time of discernment, right? I feel like this last year God's been teaching me, like, this is discernment. This is how to tell. Because at first, when I came out of the woke cult, I'm just like, I'm going to take everyone at face value. And if they say things I agree with, I'm going to follow them. And now I'm like, oh my goodness, a lot of people say things I agree with. Then they say a lot of crazy stuff too.
Yep.
And but Michelle and Natalie, gems. Like,
we feel the same.
Good eggs. Okay, somebody reminded me I have more people to thank. I'm so sorry. I'll do this quickly. You guys, thank you for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. Deranged Lunatic for $1.99 says, I was always taught that sin was sin. Well, yeah, I don't remember this whole wrong direction thing. Zavrix for $10 says, God in Eden, quote, I call heaven and earth to record this day against you that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life that both thou and thy seed may live. Thank you for that, sir.
I mean, when they ate that tree, I don't think God thought they were sending in the right direction.
Yeah.
No, at least it's in the right direction. No, it's a great point. The fall of man, but it was in the right direction. Randy Wallen for $10. Thank you, Randy. He says Andrew Tate is evil, false prophet, pushing into permissive culture that lacks good male role models. Willink, Stump, Carr, Peterson, Rogan, Ranella, all good secular role models. Christian men must step up. So he's highlighting some secular men who are role models and saying we need more Christian.
Good point. Yeah.
Thank you, Randy. Randy again for $10 says Eldridge is wild at heart and nailed it. God made men to be dangerous, heroes, warriors, adventurers, risk takers. Sadly, most lose God's traits by a Christianity that feels like pressure to be a nice guy.
I like that.
I would agree with that too. Yeah. It's sort of like what Peterson talks about. Being nice is not being kind. They're different.
Yes, they
Right.
are.
Yeah.
And then Randy is awesome. He's always reminding people. Thank you so much. $2 says, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you, Randy. Savrix for $5 says spiritual polarization. The greater the polarities, the more extreme people's attitudes will be when interacting with the quote other side.
True.
And then Brett, I will be 37 on August 19th. I'm a younger millennial.
There you go.
Thank you, Brett. By the way, 37 is my favorite number. It's going to be a good year for you. I have a good feeling. Yeah. I don't know. Do you have a favorite number? That's just always been mine.
Mine was like always 7 or 34, which equals 7.
Oh, yeah. It's for some reason it's just a number that's shown up a lot in my life, and I think it's a good year. It's like right in the middle, right? Like it's a good time of your life. So have a happy birthday, Brett. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for all of your comments. If you have questions, if you disagree, feel free to leave comments, even disagreement in the chat. And there are no dumb questions. If you have questions about Christianity, feel free to leave them below. Michelle, what do you have coming up?
Let's see. I put out my I actually got into Christian themes, discussing Disney. I did my review for the first 2 episodes of Disney's Daredevil Born Again. That is out now. And then tomorrow, Natalie and I's first time watching reaction of Major Pain comes out, if you need a laugh.
Major Pain? What is that?
You've never seen Major Pain? I saw something you haven't seen. It's the older Wayne's brother, where he's like the military sergeant that takes.
I have not seen it. That's the first thing
funny.
you've ever mentioned that I'm like, wait, what is that?
It's I think it's on Amazon right now on Prime.
Cool. You guys go check out Force of Light Entertainment to see Michelle and her lovely sister Natalie doing reaction videos. They're so funny. And Michael, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, guys, we'll see you later.
See you. Bye.
Bye. But first, a word from our sponsor. Today's Deprogrammed. Sorry, that was a joke sponsor, and it's the wrong, I hit the wrong button. Okay, here we go. Goodbye.